This might be one of the worst winters I've watched as it's airing, which says a lot when we've had multiple winters of indefinite hiatuses in the past couple of years. There's way too many mid-level romance, too much ecchi, and way too much boring fantasy garbage that uses isekai as a crutch to pull people in to watch it. Winter 2024 will begin soon, and with that comes a catalog of brand new and returning anime to choose from. We'll be taking a quick glance to determine our first impressions for not only the potential quality of some of the shows, but also whether or not we'll be watching it in the first place. For the sake of time, I'm taking the liberty of placing a solid chunk of the anime into skip. Starting with the first cover image on the tier list, we have Fate Strange Fake. Some of my favorite anime are different Fate series, and the majority of said franchise have delivered memorable experiences, so of course I'm interested. The two things that keep me from putting it into bangers is the synopsis and some of the cast. The line "imperfect copy of a girl war" in the synopsis reminds me of Fate Last Encore. This was easily the most confusing Fate I've watched, as well as not doing a great job creating interest in the main character or servants. When it comes to the characters expected for this anime, I see some from Lord Elmelio II's case files, especially Waver Velvet. Because of this alternate setting, if Waver is a master during the girl war, I'm concerned about how unbearable he'll be without a servant of similar presence to Iskander. I'm expecting Fate Strange Fake to be solid despite my concerns. Even with the trailer synopsis as well as genre, with Headhunted to Another World from Salaryman to Big Four, I'm not entirely sure what sort of story it wants to convey from this isekai salaryman. Will it lean more into the comedic or fantasy adventure elements, and will the comedy actually be amusing? These are the questions I have, but I'm willing to give it a chance and will be placing it into something to prove. Maybe I'm being harsh to Honey Lemon Soda, but I'm not feeling hyped like it seems many other people are to see another popular aloof character that brings introverted, loner, loser character out of their shell. They're generally fine anime, but I find it a bit overdone at this point, leading to my disinterest. I'll place Honey Lemon Soda into something to prove, and maybe I'll feel differently after watching some episodes. I may be a guild receptionist, but I'll solo any boss to clock out on time doesn't inspire any confidence in a quality fantasy anime, and then the animation from the trailers further hurt my opinion. This feels like a case where the community places too much trust in a studio or a specific member of the staff when the creation itself isn't deserving of it. Like, are we gonna act like this should be one of the 15 most popular anime for winter? You wouldn't get it, Duality, since you have trash taste and hate on everything. You see, it's funny that the receptionist is secretly stronger than the parties Alina does the paperwork for, and will be hilarious to see how she'll keep this hidden. I guess so, random voice I'm arguing with in my head, but I'm still placing it into bad tier and probably end up dropping it since all the fantasy anime like this are riddled with inconsistencies in their stories. For I'm a noble on the brink of ruin, so I might as well try mastering magic. I'm expecting this to be a bad anime. With it ticking off many of the uninspired isekai boxes, I'm not hopeful. This wouldn't be the first time I've seen almost this exact show either, with the Eighth Son Are You Kidding Me doing many of the same things foreshadowed here, and was not something I enjoyed. Furthermore, this story was created by Miki Nazuna, the creator of a different and disappointing isekai title, so my skepticism for a decent anime is further reinforced. It wouldn't be fair just yet to write off its potential to improve, so I'll still give it the chance to impress. It's an easy decision to go ahead and place Solo Leveling Season 2 into bangers. I expect this to be the same case for many, since it seems like everyone was rocking with the first season, and anyone placing it lower being an outlier. Not gonna lie, this is one of the few times I'm going into an anime with the foresight of what a season will cover. I read the light novels, and since I've already seen the first 2 episodes due to Reawakening, I'm ahead in almost every way. So what is Arise from the Shadows about? The show made some early decisions that was only present in the manhwa and not the light novels, so that can be a surprise depending on how you read the source material. I'm not sure on how much overall impact this change will have, so we'll have to wait and see. I will say this section of Solo Leveling is the beginning to my favorite part of the story, with us venturing farther into the demon castle that Cerberus was guarding entry to. One thing I did notice when pre-watching was the animation looked a bit more crisp and the fights more fluid, which is nice to see since it can sometimes be the case that it regresses, and that can be attributed more often to studio change. This will be the first banger on the list. Let's see for how long Solo Leveling Season 2 can remain there by itself. With Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf, I'm getting similar vibes to Otaku Elf that was a decent enough watch but wasn't something memorable. The story here seems to differ in regards to the main characters, maybe having some romantic interest in one another, which could be an interesting difference to the goddess and shrine maiden dynamic of Otaku Elf. I am concerned with the slight goonery elements depicted in one of the trailers, since I don't really think it helps with the comedic genre this is slotted into. Taking into account these things, I anticipate Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf to be an average anime. anime. Next up might be the longest named title this season, Bogus Skill Fruit Master. About that time I became able to eat unlimited numbers of skill fruit that kill you. This reminds me of the Fruit of Evolution, which can never be a good thing considering that's one of the worst anime in the past couple of years that I've forced myself to watch 2 seasons of. When so much power comes from this one thing, the skill fruit, and the once powerless main character faces no drawbacks, it's unsatisfying. One Piece and the Devil Fruits, the mythology of the Norse god Odin giving up one of his eyes for wisdom, and making a deal with the devil. These are all popular in part due to the extremes characters suffer from. I doubt anything will truly ever go wrong for the main character of Bogus Skill Fruit Master, and that's why I'm expecting it to be a bad anime. The previous season of Apothecary Diaries was one of the highlights from 2023, telling a fascinating historical narrative of navigating political power struggles, the realities of a time where class and gender disparity was rampant, and what life in an imperial palace could be. For me, it's entertaining seeing any sort of historical depiction that I can walk away with some sort of education on. At the forefront of it all was Mao Mao, a uniquely strong female main character that challenged many inequalities of the time period, but not self-righteously since she experienced many of those truths herself. I'm excited to see what season 2 will have in store for us, how Mao Mao will solve new issues, and just how far Jinshi's infatuation with her will develop. As one of those people that was impressed by this anime, which was a lot to be fair, Apothecary Diaries season 2 will be joining Solo Leveling in the banger section, so I guess it wasn't that long of a wait. Since these anime are back to back, I'll just knock them out in one go. Possibly the greatest alchemist of all time, and even given the worthless appraiser class I'm actually the strongest, are a continuation of fantasy where we can't contain all the joy seeing another main character with bad abilities that turns out to be super strong. I don't like how much this trope has become wrapped up in fantasy where a character has to be super worthless. And then I'm supposed to be surprised when that's not the case. Let's just have a character that sucks and can't overcome obstacles. I will say appraiser class's trailer did pique my interest, having animation that's better than I expected from a bad anime, and maybe the main character struggling despite having a strong ability. I'll place this one into something approved and the other into bad tier, though I can definitely foresee both of them after airing being bad. Unnamed Memory in the past has been an anime confused with the trajectory it wanted to go. Relationships between characters felt forced and the events of the plot came across as unrelated to one another due to no proper build-up or balance between elements of the plot. Tinashe was a pivotal character that needed to be expanded upon earlier before trying to introduce characters from her long history as the Witch of the Azure Moon. Only due to her being a decent character, this show didn't fail in the first season. With the second season, I'm expecting this to be bad due to how uninteresting the dynamic between Oscar and Tinashe is, and be the last time I'll ever discuss it. Unless it's truly the worst thing of winter, but I doubt that. Can You Keep a Secret looks to be a reverse version of 365 Days to the Wedding, except this time the characters are in a relationship and trying to hide it. I guess this is supposed to make the anime funny as they try and hide their attraction to one another from their coworkers, but I prefer the more wholesome romance approach to the workplace theme. This is likely to be a middle of the pack show, so I'll be placing it into average. I'm Living with an Otaku Neat Konichi looks to be something in between Himoto Umaru-chan and the helpful fox Senko-san, except it relies on fan service components to improve the comedy, I guess. The animation looks super basic and the episodes will be each 15 minutes long, so I think with all that, predicting that this will be a bad show seems reasonable. Madoka Kuriwa is impervious to my charms is something I probably just butchered the name horribly, and it falls into a pretty common type of romance where the two main characters initially don't have much interest in each other, but the one character keeps messing with them until they end up falling for each other. This comes across as a mixture of Don't Toy With Me Miss Nagatoro and Ozaki-chan Wants to Hang Out, with Terahashi from Psyche K dropped in as the female lead. The outcome of this type of anime can be really dependent on how well they develop the relationship without dragging it out for too long, but I'm a fan of the fact I won't have to worry about the harem or polygon themes since this is a love status quo anime, formerly referred to as romantic subtext on my anime list. I'll be placing this into solid. I left my A-rank party to help my former students reach the dungeon depths. Okay, a bit of a change up to the main character getting kicked from the party epidemic in fantasy right now, only for the fact he decides to leave. We couldn't entirely escape the commonalities, noticing how UK of course has to have not realized his true strength, so the old party can be jealous. I was looking forward to maybe him being on equal footing with his former students, so that's a letdown, but maybe there is a story to tell here. The only thing unreconcilable for me with this anime is the pseudo harem or harem adjacent factor. I'm of the opinion mixed groups yield a wider variety of character dynamics, resulting in a more interesting story, so this will fall into something approved for those reasons. Next is Sakamoto Days, which seems to be in the same vein as Spy Family, where it has funny scenarios the main characters are trying to avoid, except in this case it's not due to some sort of great mission to stop the world from falling into war, but instead because of Sakamoto's old life as a hitman seeking to ruin his family man life. It looks to be goofy, but not in the same way as Spy Family due to the exemption of the childcare theme. The manga seems to be super well received, and many people seem to be excited for this to release, which is to fluff up Sakamoto Days. To say, I'm placing it into solid, though I can see it being a banger for others. I'm getting married to a girl I hate in my class. Can we not do these forced marriage anime? It just screams I have a trash story that can't function without forcing these two characters into a relationship that almost never happens naturally. And then I'm supposed to laugh at the millionth awkward situation they find themselves in like it's not been done before. Plus, why's it always gotta be in a high school setting? Can't we at least get the bad version of this in a college setting? Call the old man yelling in a darkroom about pixels crazy, but this type of show doesn't work. Into bad you go.
Finally, some good food.
Now, a good arranged marriage anime I can get behind since it's not set in a time period the concept doesn't work in. My Happy Marriage was an anime I was definitely rocking with the first season of. Seeing the development of Mio from a mistreated young woman to someone being able to stand up for themselves and finally has a person in her life wanting to give her happiness was heartwarming. And the supernatural elements were cool too. Going into the second season, I'm looking for the plot of My Happy Marriage to do a better job expanding upon the supernatural powers. Why Mio and Kyoka have been drawn into power struggles, and who the people on the other end of that struggle are, since this was lacking. This will be joining the other bangers. Flower and Asura looks interesting, but I'm not sure if it's something for me since school settings aren't exactly my favorite thing. Even though it's a bit far down on Mal popularity wise, the animation seems stimulating enough, so I want to give it a proper chance, something to prove. Anime like Remake Our Life with Bakuman, as well as other shows where characters are striving to make their dreams of creating fiction that can touch the person experiencing it, will always have a special place in my heart. The main character Hirose of the Mappa original Zenshu is someone with the talent to make that dream a reality, sadly becoming overwhelmed after seeing success and continuing after more. I'm unsure of whether this is an isekai or a figment of her imagination since none of the genre or theme tags make it apparent. Whether checking on Mal or AniList, Zenshu is outside of the top 10, so I'm going to place it into Dark Horse. I think it has a pretty good chance of breaking into those top 10s, and I'm excited for many of the elements it's currently presented. My only real concern comes from it not having source material to draw from, so that's an added risk. Promise of Wizard looks like a toned-down version of Shield Hero due to the similarities between Waves of Catastrophe and the Great Calamity here, but without a Naofumi betrayed plotline. I did find it was disappointing with how little Shield Hero utilized the waves, so I'm hoping that won't be the case here. The animation looked okay, but the standout for me was the tattoos or crests present on different characters in the trailers. Honestly, just look cool. Let's say average for Promise of Wizard. The cover image of Tasakare Hotel doesn't do it any favors, however the trailer grabbed my attention. An artsy supernatural mystery anime that conveys to me that this hotel, engulfed in twilight, existing in a realm between life and death, will be introducing guests in an episodic format that the staff guides us and the guests through. This gives off a similar mood that Death Parade had, so I'm hoping for that kind of experience. The genres this show is in can be hard to successfully perform in, so despite the uphill battle Tasakare Hotel will face, I'll be the one to put faith in it by placing it into Dark Horse. Between the time it took me to put together a script and when I did my stream of my first impressions, Ubelblatt doesn't have the ecchi tag on it anymore on Mal, so an entire tangent I went on has no bearing anymore. My other tangent that still exists is a synopsis saying when the wielder of the black sword draws his black blade. We get it, it's a sword that's black. We don't have to say the same thing twice in a sentence. I do have hope in Ubelblatt because I want to see a swordsman wielding a black blade drawing his dark. Hey, whoops, my bad. I just exploited using a bunch of descriptive words there too. But seriously, Ubelblatt has the chance to give us a violent fantasy experience, with the only big problem it having being some unspeakably bad animation showcased in the trailers. It's so hard to make a violent show good if the action in it looks bad. I try not to let animation get too much in the way and try to let the plot speak for itself, but I can't ignore that it's part of the anime journey. Best place for Ubelblatt is something to prove, and hopefully someone will prove to me how to pronounce it right. I never really remember anyone talking about Ishura when it was airing in winter 2024, maybe due to the fact it was in Disney/Hulu purgatory. With the second season, I'm looking forward to more of the power struggle between these various characters to become the Demon King. There were some issues in the first season with introducing new things, but not cohesively tying them together, as well as some over-reliance on CGI. And I hope these things will be less of the case in the new season, or it will suffer. Ishura is average, but has the proper foundations to tell an interesting story, so that's the tier this will fall into. That will be my conclusion to my first impressions for winter 2025. This might be one of the worst winters I've watched as it's airing, which says a lot when we've had multiple winters of indefinite hiatuses in the past couple of years.